Hello, everybody. Welcome to the MARG Change Leader Forum. This year, we are delighted to have Spotlight series where we are expecting practitioners to share their journeys as well as we are getting some insights on the different kinds of changes. We have selected AI, ARP, M&A, and culture for this series. This particular episode, that is episode 5, we shall be discussing on M&A, and with us we have the CFO of OneAssist, Kaustav Niyogi. Welcome, Kaustav.
Thank you, Sudeshna. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Kaustav is a seasoned financial professional, over 25 years of experience across industries and different types of companies, be it the Tata Steel or Coca-Cola, Vodafone, and Cadbury's. In his latest stint at Indus Towers, he has been a key member in the Indus Infratel merger and has been part of the senior leadership team. Knowing Kaustav, he has dipped his hand in every aspect of finance in this particular journey. So it would be a very interesting to hear from him, his perspective on M&A. Welcome, Kaustav.
Thanks again, Sudeshna.
So jumping into the topic itself, so in M&A, if I'm taking the integration part, we know how important the legal and the financial part is. Do you think that the technical side of change gets precedence over the people side of the change? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think definitely, but I think that is how the the nature of the beast is, right? At the end of the day, a lot of this, when you start discussing M&As, it may happen, it may not happen. So you cannot get into the integration side of things till the time you have a clarity whether something is going through. A lot of times, once you have decided, the timeline to close that from the board and from the investors are very crunched. So at that time, the entire focus of the team is to make the integration happen. This could be certain reasons why, unfortunately for us, as part of the integration efforts in my earlier organization, the clarity was there. It was not a typical, it was a much simpler merger, if I may say. So for us, it was different. But since, as I said, people have to crunch timelines on executing the legal, and it's very complex, right? It's not a very simple in India to just go and do a merger. There are so many approvals, so many stakeholders to manage. So it is generally taken as for granted. So if merger will happen, integration will have to happen. There is no choice. I think that is the mindset which is there, and I think that is where maybe people get wrong at some point of time. I believe that you have to have people thinking about the integration during merger. My view is it is a part of merger. And to your question, why, I think that's the whole reason why people would have missed or are late in starting the process.
I understand definitely that the legal and the financial and the compliance part of it, as we can say, is very complicated. And hence it gets more attention because it is external, whereas, the integration is more internal. Does it work always that now everything has happened, the merger is going to happen? Does the people side of change is easy to get?
I think that's the toughest part of this entire process. You asked me from experience. As I said, the merger that we had, the process part of it was much simpler because there was no conflict. It was just two companies coming together who were already having common parents and all that. The toughest to do is the people side of things, because end of the day, two companies are very different depending on how they operate in terms of, say, the leadership styles of which I largely see the tone at the top, as they call it, right? So there could be one organization as an example which could be very top down, which means if you follow a chain of command. There could be another company who would be very collaborative in their working style. Now if these sort of two companies come in together, you can understand people are accustomed to working in a particular way, and it could be for years. Now to get them to change, because the integrated leader has to be one, right? But you just can't expect people to just today follow a particular way of working and tomorrow you just start and say, okay, now guys, we have to be collaborative. It is really, really tough. And I think that is where it needs a lot of time. It is not that, come on, from tomorrow you change. It doesn't work like that. So you have to work on that. You have to the communication has to be very, very strong. You have to continuously talk to your people and explain why. And I think people have to know why. Why is the change happening? Why is it important? Why they have to fall in line? So I think that part needs, and again, you're percolating through the depth of the organization. And the depth of the organization could be the last mile, who could be sitting remotely in a sales office or in a factory or in a, wherever. So I think this message going across and making that change toughest, Sudeshna, if I may tell you.
Okay. So I can we can safely say that the way we plan and put our heads together for the process or the technical side of change, we feel like if that much of effort has to be actually go into also in bringing up the integration is what I'm hearing from you. So
I think more effort, because see, when you do an integration or a process part of it, you have so many people helping you. You have bankers helping you. You have the consultants helping you. They are doing it for a living. So there is no complexity there, right? Because see, human mind is where the complexity comes. But here there is no complexity. You know what is to be done. There are people who are expert doing it. It's just about doing it in a particular way. People do project management. Everything is a template. There are maybe people who have done it 10 times, 15 times, 20 times in their life. They're guiding you. So and in life, you always also at times you choose the easier one first, right? And you say, let's get the merger done first. And here there is no set template. How do you handle people? There's no template to say, okay, this is, you do X, Y, Z. There are times where you think differently depending on the company. Your strategies would change, your people strategy changes. I think that is why it is so difficult.
Absolutely. With all the things which we are discussing, and with that, I'm moving into the next question of why do you think, what are the typical reasons you have seen at least where M&As fail?
See, I think I will put it into two parts. One is financial reason, which all of us know. For an example, have someone as, and I don't want to go to examples here, it will be very sensitive, but maybe we have overpaid for an asset or a company. We didn't do a proper due diligence, and then we realize, okay, there are skeletons in the cupboard, and you have certain matters which we have not anticipated, or maybe the synergies that we had thought. Because a lot of time the merger is about synergies and benefits and business cases and ROI. It was really, really overestimated, not possible. A lot of times the strategic reason of merger is not clear. Today, if you see, spate of companies are getting into IPOs. So at times it's a story building, right? It's a narrative that you are trying to create. Oh, this company has cash, they acquire, they do this, etc. At times you miss the strategic part of why merger. I think these are the certain things, if I call the financial reasons. Second part, and which we were talking just earlier, are the integration challenges. I think to me, those are the critical ones, and I've seen. And when you say fail, means it does not happen, the company just collapses. The fail means your business, they are doing business at a particular pace and it slows down, or from a leader. And if you look around, you will see very clear examples. I don't want to name, as I just said. From a leader, you become a very big laggard. And I think one of the key things which I was saying was communication. It's about when you are doing an integration, are you communicating enough to the people? If you are not, what happens? You lose key talent. Right? And you have people leaving who you don't want to leave. So good mergers are where people try to ring fence the right people, ring fence the good people, and that is something that we did. We decided, okay, let's ring fence. But a lot of times that is not seen. So that communication and building that trust in people. The communication build trust. People have to see that okay, this is a new change. Change is not easy. So your communication would decide what is the level of trust that you are building. I think the mind, the culture thing which I said, right? I think people don't change a lot of times, right? It's not easy to change, which I said, two ways of working. So if you can't change in your mind, and one organization continues to work the way they used to work, the other continues to work, and I've seen this, that this company X, company Y, that continues years after merger. That you are from this, you are from that. Now, if that happens, then where is the cohesion? And if you don't work as a cohesive team, how would you be successful? I think, to me, this part of the team coming together and working as one unit, that I have seen a lot of places where it is missing. And even if you try and whatever, unless you continuously hammer on that point, people would still believe company X, company Y. This is how we used to work. This is how we used to work. And everyone, and in life, all of us believe what we are doing is right. So I think, to me, that part is where most of the M&As fail.
We always say that, as you started saying, that the why has to be very clear. And here we are seeing the why in a merger, especially very business reasons, right? It's very difficult to pinpoint the individual reason to do that. You can, like when you're doing a tech change or a process change, you can say the advantages to you that way. But M&A is primarily a business reason. And the communication part, which you mentioned, do you feel that until a particular level, you had to keep it very confidential, and so the communication also gets delayed to its own people that way?
I think that is fine, because that is how it's supposed to happen, because things needs to be under wrap. But in my view, whenever you start, I think the objective has to be very clear. You have to get everyone into the same organization. You have to give people that comfort. One, your jobs are you're secured. We are here to help you. Nothing's going to change. Or if something is going to change, the change management has to be handled in a different way. Even if there are going to be pink slips, this is how it's going to happen. I think people want transparency, Sudeshna. I think it is not about good news or bad news. It is about surprises that people are scared of. I don't know, uncertainty. If you ask me, uncertainty is the biggest issue which people have. Make things clear, make things transparent, make things certain. People will respect you and follow you, and they will ensure that. And then when they understand the benefits, now the larger company can fight better, do better business, I think they will be going. And I think the other thing which happens is, a lot of times, as we discussed in the beginning, the planning part of this is not that great. So you don't plan this adequately. As I said, if merger has happened, integration will happen. Yeah. It is so detailed, I can't tell you. When we were doing our merger, just to take an example, we had 10. First of all, and can I explain what we did?
Sure.
I think first thing we did, we clearly defined the principles of merger, right? And for that, leadership team of both companies came together and say, what are the key principles? And I say, when I say principles, for example, there's a process in company A, there's a process in company B. We said we will not look at any C process.
Okay.
A or B, whichever is better, we'll select. So that's the principle you have created. Second, no disruption for customer. So what happens if you make a principle is, your planning is better. So whenever you need to make a decision, you go back to your principles and you say, okay, am I meeting the principles or violating? So decision making becomes more objective. I think that is important.
Yeah.
Second, it is very, very important to have, and I'm sure, and most of companies do that, you have an integration office working separately. So I was part of that office, and you have people, PMOs and all, and helping you. But more importantly, you have the senior people as on top, as a board. I won't call it a board of directors, but it's a
steering committee kind of a thing. Yeah.
And then you get into different tracks. So you say there is a sales track, there is this track, there are function-wise track, and there while the teams work on process alignment, policies alignment, that will happen. You identify the key questions or the key roadblocks to a successful merger. Those are very important, right? So you will come to 30-40 questions. You can't have 150-200 questions. That doesn't happen. Those 30-40 are very structural questions. For example, culture. What should be the vision of the company? Or what should be the new... every company has its own mission and all that, right? What should be that has to go down? What has to be the integrated company mission? I think those key questions are put by the integration team and then debated in a larger audience to get that buy-in. And you go ahead and answer those questions. And few things you say, okay, we will do this after merger. Or we will let it be for a year. After 1 year, we'll work. At least there has to be complete clarity.
Yes.
Why you are doing what you are doing. I think For us, that was, and I believe it was a very successful merger from that, but we didn't lose any key talent. We didn't have any, and again, I said it was simpler as well. But I think we didn't get into a situation where any disruption for the customer because of the two companies, and it was so different ways of working. I can't even tell you. So I think that clarity and that thought process and that planning is very, very important for an integration.
I think the example kind of helps a lot. But in your experience, as you said, the tracks which you mentioned, which teams or functional areas in your experience has been the toughest to merge?
See, it is always, in my view, the operations team. And when I say operations team, every company, depending on the business, is different. The people on the ground. The fun example, if it is it's a sales-oriented organization. If the salespeople across the country, which I'm assuming it's a national company,
yes,
last mile who are there on the field not hitting out, which are the easier ones? You take a finance and IT, ERPs have to be integrated, policies have to be integrated, accounting policies has to be reviewed. Again, very templated, right? And the people are all sitting there, and you just sit, address, and you handle. The operating team who are used, and the last mile could be very junior guy, a person who is only a graduate or even not a graduate, right? It could be on your roles, it could be an off role. Now, these people, they will not understand synergies of merger and all that. They are used to working in a particular way. So for you to get them to work in a different way, if at all, that is the toughest. And to us, a lot of places where we said we will take time, and we was on the field for. We said, okay, let it work the way it is, because if you try to make too many changes, it can cause a lot of disruption. And I told you one principle, no disruption, right? So if the customer should not get impacted. So there, it takes a while. It is not easy, because getting through, you can't call 15, 20,000 people or 5,000 people in one place and address in a stadium, right? It doesn't work that way. So it is basically how you percolate that, and it takes time, work on it. And then slowly you get them to do. Very difficult. In my view, that's the toughest thing.
Okay, great. And I think while doing the integration, the value of change management, kind of, as you said, we kind of understand, and you have explained it with an example. So we would directly go, okay, like when we were talking about the future of M&A, we are going to see a lot and in the different forms and shapes. And so how would you advise people who are going to do the merger and acquisitions in their journey, that how to manage the integration better with change management? What would be your key advice to it?
And merger and acquisition itself is a very complex matter. It's a very sensitive matter. It's a very difficult matter. It's a complex matter. So the integration should be, as I said, with very basic. The principle should be clear, and it should simplify it for people. The narrative has to be very something which should be resonant even to the last man standing on the field, right? No jargons, no things about, okay, this is why we are doing, etc. It is basically simple. It is good for the business. It is synergy. This similar business, we learn from each other. There is a X amount of synergy which are coming in, and we grow. We are growing. So I think the reason of merger has to be very simply explained to people. To me, change and people change is the whole and soul of a merger and integration. If you don't get that right, whatever could be your deal size, whatever is your synergies that you have estimated, nothing will be realized. And there are multiple examples where mergers have failed because of that. So I think keep it simple, keep the narrative simple, keep the communication direct, but repeated, because you have to keep on harping on these matters. I think focus on the softer aspects. The harder aspects will happen irrespective. You will be forced to do those. Regulations will force you to do that. So that is not where you need to focus your attention. You need to focus your attention on getting your people on one track. If you move your focus, not move, I think both are important, but if you put larger chunk of your attention there, and I think there is no shortcut to proper planning. I think where I think people miss out is you don't plan to the last T. The people who are in the integration office has to sit and define every problem that can come. You may not solve for everything, but it is important to list everything so that you know this could be an issue. I am not addressing it today because of X reason, but I need to address it. I think that is key. And for that, in my view, it is always an internal person who has to be leading this merger. It has to be someone who's worked in that organization. One of the reasons mergers don't do well is you don't have the right people who have ever handled merger. Now, you don't need to be an expert in that, but you have to be knowing the nuances of people management and nuances of understanding both the system, both the companies. So you have to have a cross-functional team from both the organizations sitting together. But the trust building between that has to happen very fast. And for that, it is very clear, the tone at the top. People have to be very clear that, there is no A company B. It is A plus B. Yeah. I think that, to me, that is, in my limited experience, that is how it works.
Well, I won't call it limited experience. I think your experience kind of makes it sound the way you have summarized it. I would say like it's great. So I think it would be a great insight to the audience who is going to kind of listen to this. So as we heard today, everybody, keep it simple so that your last leg of your operations also is able to understand that leaders should be every time, every moment involved in everything, and keep the leaders close, and they should be closely working with the operations teams and the cross-functional teams of both the companies in making the merger successful. Keep your communications direct and repetitive, and that way no shortcuts to proper planning can happen. Thank you very much, Kaustav. And thank you, everybody. Keep watching this spotlight for us, and do log in and do sign up to the MARG Change Leader Forum. Thank you so much.